Hi, this is Chris Harris. I'm coming to you from the ECW Arena, Ring of Honor's Glory by Honor 7. We just watched Bryan Danielson versus Nakajima, and you're going to watch the Wrestling Roundtable.
It's time! To my left, joining us on the panel is someone who helped set up at the ECW Arena last night, Chris Harris, musician and of 15 years, joining us here on the panel. We're going to be talking about the Randy Couture Brock Lesnar fight. A fight that just a couple months ago didn't even seem possible. Of course, we know Randy Couture has sorted out his disagreements with Dana White in the UFC, and he's going to be coming back for 3 more fights. Keep that in mind. Lesnar, this is his 3rd fight and the last on his current contract. Now, the question I'm going to pose, and it's a big one right off the bat, is this fight, which we're all going to see no matter what, I think we would all want to see it at some point in time, but is it the right thing to do now?
No, but I think right now for Lesnar, it's the only thing to do. I don't think a match with him and Verdun would be as marketable. Cheick Kongo was his ritual opponent. Cheick Kongo suffered a shoulder injury. So now that Randy's back, and you know, before Brock came in UFC, there have been some words what he said about Randy. I could beat Couture, I could beat anything. Randy's coming back. Is now his chance to prove himself. I was obviously very disagreeable with this at first, but UFC is a business. That's what made them popular. That's what brought up MMA. People, you know, could say what they want about MMA be coming up, but it's UFC, and it's fights like this that have brought MMA to the mainstream. And with this fight, it's going to make a lot of money, and for Lesnar, it's the only thing to do right now.
It could make a new star. Either way, it's going to make a new star, no matter what happens.
Well, Couture is already a star.
No, I'm talking about Brock.
Yeah.
Well, he's already a star.
But I mean, but it makes him legit no matter what, just being in the Octagon with him, I think. And if he wins, you have an automatic rematch. Was it a fluke? And if they don't do that, he just beat Randy Couture. So you win in either situation. Then if Couture wins and Brock looks good, Brock looks great because it's his 4th fight fighting Couture.
People could say exactly it's his 4th fight.
That's ridiculous. The fact that he even won a match.
But Brock is not your average MMA fighter.
Oh, we know that.
A star first, then coming in.
Yeah, but
so you're not going to waste your
but
time and money.
But they're looking for a face now for UFC. They're looking for somebody that they could bring on talk shows and stuff and have it and know what to do.
When you had them both on ESPN.
Right. Well, right. But I mean, you know, with all due respect to Randy Couture and Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell, you know, Brock Lesnar knows how to do that. He's been in entertainment for a long time, and he knows the deal.
I think this is a very risky fight for them. Not only it's just what if Lesnar they are trying to build. Dana White loves him. You know, regardless if this is his last fight with them or they want to re-sign him. This, to him, is his golden boy now. With Tito Ortiz gone, Chuck Liddell's career is starting to wind down. He needs a superstar fast, and that's Brock. Now, if Brock goes in there and loses in 10 seconds, he's not making a star.
But it's his 4th
He's
fight.
out the door.
No, he's not out the door.
He's fighting
their top guy.
Yeah,
he's already won.
If he walks in there and gets knocked out,
so
he lost 2 out of 3
people
now.
would pay. No, you can't count that as part of the 2 out of 3 because he's going against the man.
But that's what I'm saying is you should hold off this fight for. He needs
strike while they
one though.
Okay, I know it's not the same thing, but would you hold off on Goldberg Hogan to build it to Starrcade? You have to do it. What happens if the guy?
I definitely say learn from them holding
This is
off.
not scripted though. This is completely different than saying.
And that's why they're not holding off. This is
they
why
can't control the factors. They can't control they can't control the elements here. They need to strike while the iron's hot with this.
Here's the thing, though, and this is why I mentioned it at the beginning. Brock's on his last fight. There's pretty much no doubt that Dana White's going to want to re-sign this money-making machine for him, regardless of whether he wins or loses. However, Couture pretty much has 3 fights left, and then he's retiring, supposedly. Now, beyond just these 2, because this is really just a big chess game. It's not like wrestling where it's scripted, where we can plot it out. And you can have an idea, like Liddell and Rashad, of who's going to win, but it's never a guarantee, so it is kind of a risk.
But you can promote it to suit whatever outcome you want. If the outcome they want is Brock's the next star, if Brock keeps losing, you can't control it. So what, are we not going to have him fight? And isn't it better to have Brock lose to Couture than go and lose to Mark Coleman or something? Because then you really don't have a star.
But he already lost to Frank.
But that was only his second
But he lost,
fight.
he lost his 3rd
But then
fight.
he beat a guy who beat Cro Cop.
Exactly.
Okay, but that's playing MMA math and it doesn't always work. The thing is...
I don't see what's the risk.
Okay,
what's the
here's
worst
the
thing that
risk.
can happen?
Because Mr. Integrity, Dana White, he's the guy that says, I want Kurt Angle, but not if he wants to keep wrestling. I don't want to be associated with wrestling at all, integrity. I don't want to promote with Affliction to have the Fedor Emelianenko Randy Couture fight because I'm staying with this, integrity. But he's giving a title shot to a guy who's only won 1 out of 2 matches.
He's a promoter, it's carny.
All right,
But
so think
he
about
believes
this.
in
You know, sorry to bring it back to wrestling, but I think wrestlers felt when a football player made it to WrestleMania, his first match. You think everyone was happy about that?
We all understood it.
Wrestling's not
Because
trying to
he's
be
amazing.
accepted as a real sport. And I think
Yeah, but
that...
it's
It's
UFC
still trying to be
kayfabe.
accepted. Why do you think they brought in a mainstream guy like Lawrence Taylor? To be accepted by the mainstream media. That's why they brought in Tyson.
And you know what? Brock's different from these other fighters in a legitimate way, regardless of statistics, matches won, lost, and matches fought. Even in a diehard UFC fan's mind, worthy of extra attention and special circumstances. And this is a case where I feel Brock deserves to be there because it's going to help maintain UFC's integrity, because they recognize that he's special and different and should be put in this position.
Well, we've talked about money, and this is obviously the Dana White said he expects to do over $1 million by his record business, and that's why they're doing it, more or less. However, looking at these chess pieces, if I'm looking at Randy Couture, and he has been one of the biggest names in UFC or MMA in general, he's got 3 fights left, and the big one that they would like to do is him and Fedor.
But that's not a guarantee.
I know it's not a guarantee. However, if they had just waited, let's say, a year, because MMA fighters... Yeah, let me finish.
It's a long time.
Yeah, there's no patience anymore. The thing is, they want to make a lot of money now. I think if this was more plotted out, because first of all, I think Couture, his comeback fight is going to draw a big buy rate no matter what. They have this interim heavyweight champion situation, and it's really a thorn in their side. If they had just gotten that out of the way first, they could still do a Lesnar fight, a Fedor fight, or whatever they want to do. And with the good business that they do, if they did this more smart, I think you could have a build-up to a more credible...
pro wrestling, I think. I think that's thinking
Well, let me finish. They'd have a more credible Lesnar challenging for a title or facing Couture, period. And that combined business with the 3 fights that they would have for Couture would be equal or more than this 1 fight with Lesnar.
It might not be
So
one
what would
fight
have
with Lesnar.
Couture do until... what would you have Couture do from when, let's say Nogueira
What if
wins?
he loses?
All right, well, say Nogueira wins.
Mm-hmm.
You have
What
to
would
have a
you
unification
Couture?
match.
Mhm.
You have to have a because Couture has the real.
Exactly,
Heavyweight
but Couture's already been out of fighting for a year. It's his decision to come back now because I've been out of the year, I want to fight. You know, he's not getting any younger. So having him fight at 47 or whatever the time,
What
can't
if
be
the
that
other
good.
guy you never bet against though, Couture? He surprised everybody with that.
But he's
win.
been an underdog.
That's why the
He's been an
Lesnar fight
underdog.
works.
But why do you,
Yeah.
what do you
Because-
think was, honestly, to compare it to pro wrestling, what was better? Sting and Hogan being dragged out for a year, or Angle and Joe being dragged out for a month? Yeah,
But they have control of that. They have
Yeah, they
control.
have
They don't have
control of
to.
that.
You know how bad they fucked up with Cro Cop? They wanted Cro Cop Couture.
Perfect example.
Perfect example of
Yeah.
do your money matches now.
You got, and that, they do it in boxing, make boxing successful all the time. What if they held off with Ali and Frazier? We're going to hold off because Ali's got to build himself back up and become more legit to fight.
You know, what if Tyson, before they did him in Holyfield too, they had him fight 3 more scrubs after he got out of jail.
Well,
They did
And
the
one of them
same
knocked him
match.
out like Buster Douglas.
Sure, wrestling seems to be the only sport that wants to hold off on everything, where everyone else wants to do the dream
A
matches
compliment.
first. But I still think it's not the greatest thing in the world to give a 50-50 2-fight guy a title shot. But regardless, I'm sure we're all going to watch it, and we're all going to be on the edge of our seats. But in a year's time, maybe we'll be going back and saying, what if? Because that's what we're going to say next. We're going to be talking about the what ifs, the time machine topic in pro wrestling. When we come back, more Wrestling Roundtable. We didn't get to go into
Imagine that.
all these other chess pieces, Nogueira, Mir, Cro Cop.
The title
like,
situation.
probably gonna be coming back.
Yeah.
Gonzaga, Verdum.
They're so
you know.
I mean, for some
That's-
reason,
that's-
that's the guy
it's-
who's
it's-
facing that title
my
shot.
God.
It's like
Yeah.
MMA is more complicated than wrestling because it's real.
Yeah,
you think it'd
mentioned
just
that.
be easy. You know?
I'm glad that
No.
nobody mentioned that the way Brock fought that fight, that he's like the new Tim Sylvia because he's still. I hate
No,
that fight. I want Brock to
he's-
fight him and just kill him.